Most people think healthcare is mainly about treating disease after it appears. But in reality, healthcare is beginning to shift towards something entirely different, extending human health span before disease emerges in the first place. A new longevity infrastructure is emerging, one focused not simply on living longer, but on maintaining physical and cognitive performance throughout human life. This is what many now call human longevity. At its core, this trend is about transforming healthcare from a reactive sick care system into a proactive biological optimization system powered by biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and continuous health monitoring. And this transformation is beginning to reshape healthcare economics, pharmaceuticals, insurance systems, consumer technology, and even global demographics. To understand why this trend exists, you first need to understand the structural pressures driving it. One major driver is the aging of the global population. Many developed economies are facing rapidly aging workforces, increasing healthcare costs, and growing pressure to maintain long-term economic productivity. Another major shift is the genomic revolution. The cost of DNA sequencing has collapsed over the last decade, while technologies like CRISPR are enabling increasingly precise forms of genetic engineering and biological intervention. At the same time, metabolic science is advancing rapidly. New pharmaceutical classes like GLP-1 therapies are proving that large-scale metabolic intervention can dramatically impact obesity, cardiovascular health, and chronic disease risk. And behind all of this is the growing financial burden of healthcare itself. Governments and insurers increasingly understand that preventing disease may eventually become far cheaper than treating chronic illness at scale. Today, longevity infrastructure is increasingly becoming a strategic economic system rather than simply a medical niche. To understand how this ecosystem works, you need to break it into 5 major pillars. The first pillar is genetics and bioregeneration. This includes stem cell therapies, gene editing technologies, and regenerative medicine designed to repair biological damage at the cellular level. The second pillar is metabolic health and GLP-1 therapies. Advanced pharmaceutical systems are increasingly being used to manage weight, insulin resistance, cardiovascular risk, and long-term metabolic decline. The third pillar is predictive diagnostics and artificial intelligence. AI systems now analyze biomarkers, imaging data, and genomic information to detect disease risks long before symptoms emerge. The fourth pillar is continuous monitoring. Wearable biosensors and connected health devices provide a constant stream of physiological data that can guide personalized intervention and prevention strategies. And the fifth pillar is longevity infrastructure itself. Specialized longevity clinics, integrated health campuses, and advanced senior care systems are emerging to support aging populations with data-driven health management. Behind the scenes, operating longevity systems requires highly sophisticated coordination infrastructure. Companies conduct genetic screening, run massive clinical trials, manage enormous health data repositories, engineer predictive AI diagnostic systems, and operate personalized longevity platforms integrating multiple streams of biological data. At the center of this ecosystem is a highly integrated value chain. It begins with research and development across genetics and pharmaceutical systems. Then comes early diagnostics, identifying biological risks through imaging, biomarkers, and genomic analysis. After that comes preventive intervention using precision therapies and targeted treatments. Next is remote monitoring through continuous biosensor data collection. And finally, integrated care systems combine all of these layers into long-term health span management. Now, who is actually buying this technology? Governments and insurers are investing in preventive healthcare systems to reduce the enormous long-term costs of chronic disease. High-performance consumers are increasingly spending money on health optimization, cognitive performance, and longevity-focused lifestyles. And institutional healthcare systems are adopting predictive diagnostic tools to improve efficiency and patient outcomes. Now, let's talk about monetization. One major revenue source is pharmaceutical royalties generated by patented longevity therapies, metabolic drugs, and advanced biological treatments. Another growing segment is diagnostic services, genomic sequencing, AI imaging analysis, and biomarker testing. Continuous monitoring systems also generate recurring subscription revenue through wearable devices and connected health platforms. And entirely new business models are emerging around longevity clinics, integrated health campuses, and proactive care ecosystems. Several major companies are emerging as structural leaders in this ecosystem. Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly dominate the rapidly expanding GLP-1 and metabolic health market. Illumina remains one of the foundational infrastructure providers for global genetic sequencing systems. Grail is developing advanced multi-cancer early detection systems using blood-based diagnostics. Dexcom has become a leader in continuous metabolic monitoring technology. Now let's talk about where this trend is heading next. Artificial intelligence is accelerating drug discovery timelines and enabling faster development of biological therapies. GLP-1 systems may eventually evolve into broader longevity intervention platforms. Governments may increasingly adopt preventive health policies to reduce healthcare spending pressure. And enormous venture capital investment continues flowing into cellular repair, genetics, and longevity-focused biotechnology. As this trend expands, industries most exposed include pharmaceuticals, life insurance, healthcare systems, consumer technology, and specialized real estate. But despite the enormous opportunity, longevity infrastructure also faces major risks. One challenge is bioethical and regulatory scrutiny surrounding gene editing, biological experimentation, and long-term data privacy. Another major concern is economic inequality. Advanced longevity systems may initially remain accessible only to wealthier populations, potentially creating a growing health divide. Healthcare budget limitations may also slow the adoption of expensive new therapies at national scale. And many biological interventions still face uncertainty regarding long-term safety and effectiveness. At the end of the day, human longevity is not simply about extending life expectancy. It is about industrializing the infrastructure required to maintain human performance, health, and productivity across much longer lifespans. And as biotechnology, artificial intelligence, diagnostics, and continuous monitoring continue to converge, longevity infrastructure may become one of the defining economic systems of the next generation. If you want to understand markets, you have to understand this system. Subscribe to NAVIXA for clear, structured market insights.